I wanted to share a little bit about what Microsoft has done in the cloud in our journey on the same path, both the technology that we're producing as a software company, but also the things that we do for our own IT company, because we're a very big company too. So with that, I want to jump in, and this is not meant to be comprehensive on the list of products, but I want to kind of give you a feeling. And again, in about 15 minutes, I'm going to cover 5 to 6 year swaths all at once. You obviously know Microsoft from way, way back when. Windows, Office, lots of sort of products that you've had, but you may not have looked as closely at some of the services products and those sort of things that we started building actually all the way back in the 90s. In particular, things like Hotmail. Eventually we had Xbox and then Xbox Live and those components, Live Messenger, some of these sort of things. And then we got into Windows Live and those things. Really, that's a start for us of getting into the cloud and doing those, while also doing a lot of enterprise products and those components too. I wanted to share a little bit about what some of this technology looked like. So starting off back in our Generation 1 data centers, when we were starting to do this work, we had a pretty classic IT kind of structure. We were in colos that we didn't actually own. We had a lot of custom build-outs that were going on. The racks that you see there, people would actually be going in and putting in single servers at a time. A lot of humans involved with that. Frankly, a lot of error rate associated with that kind of content. But we were starting to actually go build out the software. Keep in mind, this is basically in the 90s, going into the early 2000s. We're starting to build out the software that we needed to be able to run at scale, because Xbox 360 starts adding tons of users as the console gets bigger. Live Messenger is one of the biggest messaging apps that we have at the time. Obviously, email and those sort of things as well. How do you keep that system up and running? So we started working on things like our compute fabric, being able to actually handle, like, okay, how do I handle thousands of servers at once? How do I get to 10,000 servers at once? And that started growing into also the need to analyze data and go through that, which is pretty obvious at this point. But if you scroll back about 14 years, what data stack would you use to start going through and handling petabytes of data? There wasn't really a GitHub to go download code from. A lot of those components weren't there. These things are actually getting built. So we started working on building information systems that could start pumping through all of that data. Combinations of what are people clicking on to help them, telemetry, diagnostics, those sort of components as well, which again feeds back into the compute fabric that we're doing. We also start working on machine learning, which at that point you hire data scientists. Again, not really a lot of libraries around, certain types of runtimes you can go borrow from. We start building those two muscles together and put them there. A lot of our infrastructure on networking looks pretty classic as well. Kind of a classic, scale out, kind of leaf node sort of system in here, which again, from a scaling perspective at this time for us, worked reasonably well, but really started to show the edges when you start getting into tens of thousands of servers that come through. And at the time, we were probably at that point moving off into about 8 different metros around the world. You can see some of the locations that are there. So this was good to get us started. But one of the key things on cloud that we found is that you constantly hit the next 10x curve. And that next 10x is the hard thing. Like, it's super easy to get going, and maybe I can even do proof of concept around, hey, how about I get 1,000 VMs up and running? Okay, that's great. Now, what if you want to do 2 million, 10 million, 100 million? And every fork in that curve winds up exposing issues in the existing software that you've got. And we've hit that very consistently. If I start fast forwarding again, and I'm again, just given time, I'm going through a lot of years all at once, we start going into things like now hosting of Office. So BPOS, if you use those systems as well, the business productivity suites that we had. And I will tell you, that was a very humbling experience at Microsoft, because for years, we'd been giving you licensed software for you to go run on premises. With only our IT department actually trying it. And as an engineer, man, you start setting up your own stuff. Sometimes all I can say is, I'm sorry. We learn quickly, right? I mean, like, man, it's like, gosh, is it really this hard to run this stuff? Wow, what are we doing? So, but the good news is we started hosting our own software. That was both from a services perspective, and again, we're back, pre-2010 in this environment. We started getting a good feeling for what was good about our systems, what was hard to manage, and how we can go in and do the automation. We made acquisitions like Skype. We came out with Bing, which was the next generation of search. And we actually introduced Windows Azure at the time over this 5-year period. We started updating our infrastructure as well. So you can see, instead of having the kind of colo environment with people plugging stuff in, we start moving into more around density. How can I get more predictable racks going in and be able to put capacity in there a heck of a lot better? And we started improving, kind of our sustainability as well as our PUE ratio and those sort of components. So now we're starting to get better on this. We now start introducing again, and this is over this 5-year period, more of the scaling software. So we showed the compute fabric from before. This is where you'll start to see our storage system for Azure kick in. So something that's designed for zettabyte level storage, right? Not petabytes, not exabytes, but zettabytes. I need to be able to store that much data through this system.